Welcome, Taurus, to your monthly horoscope for October. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Also, I'd like to briefly tell you about my year 2021 personal horoscope special offer. You can order now and get the rest of this year free, as well as the whole of year 2021 and your character analysis, and get 30% off. And as I say, this is based on your time, date and place of birth. So no two forecasts are the same, no two character analyses are the same. This is going to give you searing insights into what the next year holds. Please see the link beneath this video. But as for this month, I do think relationships and practicalities are going to be a big part of the thread of what you're dealing with. But that cluster of energy in the sign of Capricorn, your 9th solar house, is very much about realizations, expansion of knowledge. And as you start this month, we have a full moon. But this full moon occurs in a very tender area, the 12th house. Now, of course, Mars has been in this location. Mars is potentially quite a disruptive influence in the 12th solar house. It has the potential to evoke any issues from the past which have maybe lain dormant and bring them to the surface. And in the first 3 weeks of this month, Mars is in a clash with Pluto, the planet of transformation. Now, these two are the co-rulers of the sign of Scorpio. So they are quite intense, and they can be to do with change. So what I feel is possible is that you may gain a greater understanding of past events. But if you do, it could create a degree of turbulence in terms of your emotions. For example, if you're releasing something that was deeply painful about your past, it's possible that in the here and now, you could feel a little unsettled. On the other hand, it may be that someone else is going to confront you with a side of your nature that you're not so conscious of, because the 12th house is the kind of hidden or shadow side of our nature. It can also be to do with secrets and also the people who aren't necessarily our greatest fans. So just be conscious of that. So this full moon, which kicks off this month, a month when we're going to have a blue moon, because we have a full moon on the last day of this month in your sign, on the 31st, this is asking you to stay in touch with perhaps the things that maybe ordinarily you wouldn't be quite so conscious of. And that may mean giving yourself permission to have some downtime, some peace for reflection, and just to give yourself those moments of space just to let your emotions really settle upon you. Now, it is true that also on the 3rd, your ruling planet Venus moves into a glorious location. Yes, she moves into the sign of Virgo. Well, glorious for you because this is another earth sign in the earth triplicity. It's very much about your self-expression and your creativity. And if you're single, this can give you the desire to be more gregarious and perhaps even strut your stuff in a more confident way. Now, of course, that can be a little bit difficult with COVID, but if you do get an opportunity to socialise and meet with people, I think you're going to want to perhaps present yourself in a very refined manner. So your interest in fashion, if you have any, can grow. If you're someone who's more of a creative in terms of art or handicrafts, this can be a very enriching period for you through to the 27th. But it is true as we come into this new month that Mercury, the planet of communication, is in shadow in the sign of Scorpio, your opposite sign. So for you, that's very much about relating. Now, when Mercury is in retrograde, which begins on the 14th of this month, the potential for glitches around communication is obvious. But actually, on the 28th, Mercury inverses and moves into the 6th solar house of your situation, which is where the Sun is as we begin this month's journey. And that's where the practicalities come in. So I think you could find yourself having some conversations this month where there is the potential for cross wires. But I'm a great advocate of thinking that Mercury retrograde and shadow periods can be a time of opportunity. So This gives you a chance to think about how you interact with others. Are there some tweaks you can make? Are you as conscious of their needs as much as you could be? Is someone through that Pluto ninth house position in that tense angle to Mars going to challenge you in some kind of way? It's possible. It's also possible that you have the chance to grow with Mercury's help, because relating is not just about what we want to say. It's also ensuring that other people understand where we're coming from, so in other words, comprehension, but also being clear about what they need. And that could be the lesson of Mercury for you this month. Now, on the 8th, it is true, through to the 21st, the Sun in the sign of Libra, all about those finer details, making sure things are running smoothly, perhaps a greater consciousness around wellness, the nutrients that we're ingesting, and exercise, or perhaps where we are investing our energies, where perhaps we're trying to support others. That's very sixth house. So if you have a job which gives you a great deal of satisfaction, I think that that's also going to be to the fore with the Sun's journey here. But it is clashing with not just Pluto like Mars, it is also clashing with Jupiter and Saturn. So from the 8th through to the 21st, I do feel that those practicalities can compete with another part of your nature which actually may crave for a little bit more freedom, or ironically a lot more stimulation. So if your life is a little bit too workaday, a little bit too formulaic, it is about just going through the processes, I think you're being pushed here to consider some changes. And if you're finding it hard to make those changes, that can create a tension point. It's also possible that you're going to find out some new information that can inform that everyday structure. But because you're a fixed sign, you often have a real appreciation of continuity, and therefore letting go of I'm a fixed sign too. My sign is Aquarius. So for us fixed sign people, the other two being Leo and Scorpio, for us fixed sign people, it's important sometimes to flex and not be too resistant to change. But really, that cluster of energy in the sign of Capricorn has, apart from Saturn's brief sojourn into Aquarius from the 22nd to the 2nd or 22nd of March to the 2nd of August, has been really evoking the principle of new experiences, change in all sorts of things, your physical reality or perhaps your thinking. So if you're resisting that, or those responsibilities and obligations to others seem too heavy, that could cause a little bit of resentment. Or if you're resisting the change, that could be an area that causes you some tension. Now the 14th does see Mercury go fully into retrograde, and it's going to be in shadow through to the 19th of November. Of course, it's going to come back into the sign of Scorpio next month, but on the 28th of this month, as I said before, it goes back into the sign of Libra. So if you are needing to finesse any of those practicalities, I think this is where it's going to show itself. And on the 16th, we have a new moon in the sign of Libra, which is ordinarily very much about finding the balance, the equilibrium of situations. But guess what? This is clashing with Pluto and Saturn. So perhaps around your relationships, perhaps it is you that wants to change things up, and someone close to you may prefer the status quo. And it's possible that you're going to have to try to use your powers of charm with Venus in your 5th house, but also because the sign of Libra is also, like your sign, governed by Venus. So this energy that's coming from the Sun does suggest that if you can provide some practical suggestions to someone about why it would be a good idea to change something, they may well be more engaged, and that can sort of fend off a defensiveness that may come back towards you. It is true that all this month, Jupiter and Neptune continue to forge a glorious alliance, which has been going on for some time. The friends that have a spiritual dimension or are very interested in growing their consciousness, I think will continue to be those that you really can feel a sense of simpatico and connection to. So that's lovely. Now there's also a glorious link between the 18th and the 24th, between Venus, your ruler, in that glorious 5th house, and Saturn and Pluto. So if there is somebody that you feel a real kinship with, whether it's a friend, a colleague, or it is someone on a more personal basis, the potential to really appreciate and forge a deeper bond with them is really enhanced at that time. And perhaps a well-established tie that is going well can also deepen through that period. Now the 23rd sees the sun make its way into your opposite sign. So this is all about relationships. Of course, initially Mercury's there in retrograde, and the sun moving into this location can bolster, reinforce the energies of Mercury despite its retrograde in a very helpful way. But on the 28th, not just does Mercury invert into the sign of Venus, into the sign of Libra, Venus moves out of your sign and out of your 5th house, and into the sign of Libra itself. So there is a kind of Libran footnote despite the sun moving into your 7th house. So this is what I mean about relationships and practicalities. And as the month draws to a close, Mercury in its new home in Libra is squaring up with Saturn. So perhaps again there could be some brittle energy that manifests itself around a resistance to change, or perhaps someone is a bit more piercing and pointed in their point of view in the way they express it to you. It's also important to know that when Mercury and Saturn are in tense angles, it can depress our optimism a little bit. Just be conscious of that. And that brings us to that glorious blue moon in your sign. But guess what? It's in conjunction with Uranus, which of course has been with you since March the 7th, 2019, was with you for 5 months between mid-May and mid-November in 2018. And Uranus, of course, is a kind of counterintuitive planetary influence in the sign of Taurus, because of all the fixed signs, I do feel that Taurus probably likes that continuity the most. Uranus, of course, is about change, and therefore that combination can create resistance. But of course, this full moon is opposing the sun position in Scorpio. So I think if there's a relationship which you're not getting the kind of feedback or acknowledgement or validation from that you would really like, and you're feeling very frustrated, I do think it's going to be quite hard to bottle up how you feel. I think you're going to need to say. And of course, you can be direct. Some people say, blunt. I think Taurus people are just very real. You're just expressing it as it is. But I think Uranus does bring a more impulsive electric energy to the equation. So if something has been frustrating you, I think in the following 2 weeks, you're much more likely to really just say it. But if it means you ventilate a frustration that's built up for some while, or is linked to the past, remember that square between Mars and Pluto for the first 3 weeks of this month. So there may be something that you do a lot of cogitation around during that period, but then you actually share the information as we go into November. So it's a month of opportunities, as always, some challenges, and I just hope that laying out the planets in this way gives you the overview of how you can process things in terms of your zodiac sign or your ascendant. But if you do want to find out what year 2021 holds, please do see that special offer beneath this video. But for now, it's been a real pleasure being with you. Stay safe, take care, good luck, and goodbye.